You were never told this, but the reason you hate crowded places might be the clearest proof that your mind is rare. Every time you walk into a packed space, something in you tightens. Your body wakes up like it's entering enemy territory. The lights are too bright, the sounds are too layered, the air feels heavier than it should. Everyone else seems fine, laughing, talking, flowing with the noise as if they were made for it. You stand there, quietly asking yourself a question you've never said out loud. Why does this feel like too much when it's supposed to be normal? Most people don't realize what's actually happening inside you. They see your silence and call it shyness. They see your distance and call it coldness. They see your early exit and assume you're antisocial. But what if none of that is true? What if your urge to escape crowds isn't a flaw in your personality, but a highly tuned signal from a nervous system that processes life at a level most people will never experience? What if the problem is not that you're too sensitive, but that the world is too loud for how deeply you feel? Tonight, you're not here to learn how to fix yourself. You're here to finally understand why you've always felt out of place in the places everyone else seems to love. And once you see it, you won't be able to unsee it. The quiet life you live behind your eyes. Let's start with what no one sees. You walk into a room and your mind doesn't just arrive. It starts scanning. You notice who avoids eye contact, who is forcing a smile, who laughs too loudly to cover something hollow. You don't try to do this. Your attention simply flows there. While other people are thinking, who should I talk to? You're thinking, whose energy can I handle? You might find yourself drifting toward the edges of rooms, near exits, balconies, doors. You don't announce it, but you always make sure you can leave without making a scene. You call it just in case, but your body calls it safety. Maybe you've noticed these patterns in yourself, saying yes to plans and then secretly hoping they get canceled, feeling more relaxed in a nearly empty cafe than at a buzzing party, dreading the moment someone suggests, let's go somewhere crowded, it'll be fun. You've probably told yourself a story about all this. I'm weird. I'm socially awkward. I'm just not like everyone else. But there's a hidden truth behind these reactions. They're not random quirks. They're clues. Clues that your system doesn't just see people. It absorbs them. Clues that your empathy isn't average. It's amplified. Clues that your mind is running high IQ habits in the background, predicting, analyzing, feeling, reading the room long before anyone else realizes there is a room to read. You've spent years trying to act normal on the outside, but inside, you live in a different world. Inside the empath's overloaded brain. To understand why crowds feel wrong to you, we have to look at what your brain is doing without your permission. This is neuroscience explained in simple terms, not to label you, but to give language to what you already feel. First, think of sensory input. Most people have mental filters that dull the intensity of the world. Their brains automatically turn the volume down on background sounds, irrelevant faces, random movements. Yours does the opposite. Your attention grabs too much. The laughter behind you, the argument across the room, the music, the lights, the shifting moods, the subtle tension between two strangers who won't even speak. It all comes in. This isn't just overthinking. It's a kind of subconscious behavior where your brain refuses to ignore information. Some might call it a brain glitch, but it's more like a survival upgrade that hasn't been taught how to live in a modern crowd. Then comes empathy. Your emotional system is wired to mirror others. When someone is anxious, your chest tightens. When someone is angry, your body prepares for impact, even if the anger isn't directed at you. This is where trauma responses can sneak in. If you grew up with unpredictability, criticism, or emotional chaos, your nervous system learned one primary job: stay alert. So now, in any crowded environment, your body runs old code. Scan for danger, track shifts, stay ready. Meanwhile, your reward system plays by different rules. Some people get a dopamine hit from noise, excitement, and social stimulation. You don't. Crowds don't energize you. They drain you. Your brain feels more rewarded by quiet, by depth, by reflection. the chemistry of long thoughts and slow conversations. While others chase stimulation, you chase clarity. What does this actually feel like in your life? It feels like leaving a crowded event with a buzzing head and an empty heart. It feels like needing to lie in the dark for an hour just to feel like yourself again. It feels like emotional detachment psychology kicking in when things get too loud. Spacing out, shutting down, feeling numb, all because your system can't process one more drop. These aren't just weird habits. They're evidence of genius traits misread by a world that worships noise more than nuance. The habits that secretly reveal your rare wiring. Now, let's walk through the patterns that give you away. Habit number 1, you always know where the exits are. Before you relax, you map the room in your mind. You know exactly how to leave if you need to. This isn't paranoia. It's a remnant of hyper-awareness, the same instinct that once kept people alive in dangerous environments. Habit number 2, you rehearse your escape before you arrive. When someone invites you somewhere crowded, you don't just ask, "What time?" Your brain silently asks, "How do I leave? How long do I have to stay? What's my excuse if I'm overwhelmed?" It's not overthinking for the sake of drama. It's your nervous system trying to protect your energy before it's too late. Habit number 3, you feel emotionally hungover after being around too many people. Nothing terrible happened, but the next day you feel drained, heavy, foggy, almost like you stayed up all night even if you went to bed early. That's what happens when your empathy has been reflecting everyone else's emotions. Your system is processing long after the event is over. Habit number 4, small talk feels more exhausting than silence. You can do it. You know the script, but you can feel the emptiness of conversations that never touch anything real. This isn't you being difficult. It's you feeling the cost of pretending. Your brain craves depth, not noise, and your heart knows when it's faking. Habit number 5, you sometimes shut down in the middle of a crowd. One moment you're present, the next you feel numb, distant, detached from your own body. That emotional detachment isn't evidence that you don't care. It's your system pulling the emergency brake to protect you from overload. Habit number 6, you feel more you in quiet spaces than in popular ones. Empty streets at night, quiet mornings before the world wakes up, one-on-one talks instead of group chaos. You feel not just comfortable, but alive. This is where your subconscious behavior finally lines up with your true wiring. Your mind is free to think, feel, and notice without being attacked by 1,000 signals at once. Habit number 7, you blame yourself for all of this. Instead of seeing these patterns as signs of rare wiring, you treat them like proof that something is wrong with you. This is one of the most powerful cognitive biases you live with. The bias that assumes the crowd is normal and you are the error. But what if that's the biggest misunderstanding of your life? How the world teaches you to hate your own wiring. You weren't born believing you were broken. You were taught. From a young age, you were surrounded by messages that equate loudness with confidence, nonstop activity with success, social buzz with happiness. The more someone thrives in chaos, the more normal they appear. So what happens to someone like you? Someone who notices more, feels more, and burns out faster? You learn to mask. You force yourself into situations that drain you. You stay longer than your body wants to. You smile even when every system inside you is asking to be somewhere quiet. Over time, you internalize a disturbing fact. The world values your performance more than your nervous system's truth. Family members might have called you shy, antisocial, too sensitive. Classrooms rewarded the kids who raised their hands first, not the ones who sat silently absorbing the whole room. Jobs praised those who could network relentlessly, not the ones who worked best in focused, uninterrupted space. Without realizing it, you started believing a story. If I'm not like them, I'm less than them. This is where dark psychology shows up in a subtle way. Society conditions you to mistrust your own limits, to override your inner signals, to treat your exhaustion as laziness instead of as a sign that you've taken in more than most people do. So you end up doing something tragic. You gaslight yourself. You tell yourself to stop being dramatic. You push through. You ignore the brain glitches, the emotional hangovers, the dread that rises every time an invitation involves the word crowd. And slowly, you stop trusting your own experience. But what if the real distortion isn't inside you, but in the expectations you were given? Turning overwhelm from a cage into a compass. The moment you stop seeing your patterns as evidence of brokenness, everything shifts. You begin to realize that your body has been telling you the truth for years. You just never had the language or the permission to listen. You're allowed to design your life differently. You're allowed to choose depth over constant contact. You're allowed to prefer a handful of real connections over 100 shallow ones. You're allowed to say, I can come, but I won't stay long, and mean it. This isn't retreating from life. It's choosing how you participate in it. You can turn your empathy into a tool instead of a burden. You can notice when a room is too loud, too tense, too draining, and instead of forcing yourself to endure it, you can quietly step back. You can use your pattern recognition to sense which people are safe, which environments are nourishing, which invitations are actually aligned with who you are. You don't have to explain this to everyone. Many won't understand. Their world is built on stimulation. Yours is built on awareness. But you can start by being honest with yourself. Ask simple questions. Does this space respect my nervous system? Do these people allow me to be quiet without punishing me for it? Do I feel more like myself after spending time here, or less? When you start living by those answers, everything begins to change. Relationships shift. Your energy stabilizes. Your self-criticism softens. Your so-called avoidance becomes discernment. Your solitude becomes restoration, not exile. Your rare way of processing the world becomes a map instead of a prison. This doesn't mean you'll never enter crowds again. It means that when you do, you'll know exactly what you're doing there, how long you can stay, and how to come back to yourself afterward. Final transmission: what you do with this now. Here's the part that only you can answer. If you recognize yourself in this, if the signs of the empath who avoids crowds feel uncomfortably familiar, then you are standing at a quiet crossroads. On one side is the path you already know: forcing, masking, overriding, pushing yourself into environments that were never built for your kind of mind, then blaming yourself when you break. On the other side is a different path. It's slower, quieter, but more honest. It asks you to trust what your body has been saying all along, to see your reactions not as defects, but as data. To understand that your sensitivity is not an inconvenience, it's information. You see more than others. You feel more than others. You carry more than others in every crowded room, and that will never make you less. The question now isn't whether these patterns exist in you. You already know the answer. The real question is this: now that you finally understand why you avoid crowds, what will you do with that knowledge the next time the noise of the world tries to convince you to ignore yourself again?